I think it was really develop our stance, our philosophy around AI and what we think the future of AI and content marketing and copywriting would be. It's rapidly developing. There's been a lot of buzz, a lot of hype. This is the death of copywriting. This is the death of design and marketing. And, we want it to be there saying smart things. If everyone's got the same tool at their disposal, right, and they're all using it in the same way, then how do you have a competitive edge? And I think differentiation will be even more important.
Konrad, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me. Excited to be here.
It's nice chatting on other time zones, morning for you, nighttime for me. I thought a fun place to kick off would be a snapshot of your AI journey.
Yeah, sure. So I'll say, first of all, we are a content strategy and copywriting agency, and we blend the science of data-driven content strategy and psychology with the art of creative copywriting, basically to help brands get their words right at every step of the customer journey. And I think that sciencey part is important. We've always considered ourselves a forward-thinking agency. We're very good at contingency planning, which is largely thanks to my other half. I met in Australia, so she's my partner in life and crime and business. She's the managing director of the agency, and she's more of the integrator. I'm the visionary, and she's very good at planning, forward-thinking. Because of all that, we've sort of kept our ears to the ground, our collective ears to the ground when it's come to AI, and kind of kept our finger on the pulse of the industry. For many years, we sort of knew that these developments were happening, and GPT-3 was launched in 2020, along with various tools based on that architecture. So, prior to ChatGPT, basically, there were things that had come out, and Jasper, previously known as Jarvis, which was previously Conversion AI, I believe, was launched in 2020 as well as, I believe, Copy AI. So, for us, there was a reason to keep our ear to the ground, because these are all based on large language models, right? Language, and we're in the business of language. And in order to kind of future-proof your agency and be forward-thinking, you kind of have to be aware of these things and not just stick your head in the sand. We were keeping up to date with the industry. We had a brief stint in 2020 where my wife / managing director and I went to Greece with a friend of ours who was quite senior AI strategist in Amazon, but was actually leaving the company. And we almost launched our own tool. We were kind of persuaded by him to come on board, combine our expertise, our methodologies with his sort of AI strategic knowledge to launch something that would be along the lines of, taking the guesswork and grunt work out of content strategy and copywriting. But at that time, we decided against it, and we were kind of advised against it because it was sort of a case of shiny object syndrome, which is something I used to have a problem with many years ago, where we're building and growing our agency. And I think it wasn't the right time for us to suddenly launch a tech tool, a SaaS tool, because it would have taken our attention away from our core offering. I think it would have demotivated the team. It would have complicated things. So that almost happened, but it didn't. Then fast forward to, I guess, end of 2022, if I'm getting my dates right. Was it November 2022? ChatGPT came out, right, and just kind of blew up the internet. And I think the genius of what OpenAI that did there was make it free and make it, in terms of application, so widespread, and in terms of usage, just the fact that it's a back and forth chat. So something that's just really, really dead easy for anyone to use in an almost human-like conversation. So extremely widespread. Everyone, as we all know, started using it. And what happened for us as an agency was, because it opened the eyes to where we were in terms of LLMs and the advancements of AI, especially in relation to our field, it kind of lit a fire under us to have to make some faster moves. And we decided to really embrace the technology. We decided, to do our own proper testing, use case testing. We wanted to understand the strengths and limitations of the technology in relation to our services and even the inner operations of our business. And I think the enjoyment part was important for us because we wanted to make sure that we weren't removing parts of the process that our team, our copywriters, really enjoy, because you'd end up having a demotivated team, and you don't want to lose team members because you're so immersed in going, we are now, AI is part of our value proposition. And then back to the second thing that we did was really develop our stance, our philosophy around AI and what we think the future of AI and content marketing and copywriting would be, and start being vocal about it, coming on podcasts like this and, talking on LinkedIn about it, and really trying to be at the forefront of it, right? Because it's rapidly developing. There's been a lot of buzz, a lot of hype. This is the death of copywriting. This is the death of design and marketing. And, we wanted to be there saying smart things based on proper actual understanding and use case testing, and not fear mongering, and talking about the strengths and the limitations, and talking about the future, and being there at the forefront so that we don't get left behind and we have a competitive edge over our competitors who are perhaps ignoring it, right, and burying their heads in the sand. So we've been building AI assistants. They're AI assistants which each have their own role, their own name, their own visual identity, their own personality. I'll give you an example. We've got one called Cappy. He's got this cute little cap, and he basically takes care of recap emails. And Cappy's been already kind of trained on how to do a recap email in the way that I want, based on like pain points of the client, what their desires are, what some challenges are, and so on and so forth. So that's one example of one of our bots, one of our AI assistants. And that kind of brings us to today. That was the latest and greatest development, I'd say.
Amazing. And when you train these AI bots, or let's even call them team members, because that's effectively what they are, what percentage of the inputs is human and how much is the AI machine that's churning out the output?
I'd say it really depends on the function, on the bot, and what their role is. With Cappy, for example, again, quite a simple thing that it needs to do, which is read through that transcript and kind of pick things out. I will say, of course, that we're using Fireflies to actually record and transcribe, and it does it brilliantly. It's a lot better than those kind of tools in past years. So that already saves a ton of time. But in terms of input and output, because the training's already happened and that's sort of one time, it's literally a case of saying, can you just, I might add a few sentences and then it churns out this email. I used to take an hour to do a proper recap email, and now in this process it takes me half an hour, and it's time saving, something that I didn't enjoy doing. It was a manual task. It wasn't kind of the creative side of things.
I love that, and I think that's really open and transparent about lazy inputs. Is this going to produce duplicate? You still need to have that human hybrid approach to get a great quality
Absolutely.
Product output, and you're giving away your process, which clearly is putting the human touch into what the AI learning machine churns out.
Definitely. And one thing I've found, again, is the best way to write great copywriting using AI is by being a great copywriter. Otherwise, garbage in, garbage out. And I thought that was just perfect. And I think that while I am, the CEO of a copywriting agency here talking about using AI, because we've embraced it, I think it's really, really important to talk about the dangers and the risks of kind of AI misuse and abuse, which is happening everywhere, even in terms of people just writing LinkedIn comments with AI, and you can smell it a mile off, right? And you're like, why are you doing that? LinkedIn's for being social, right? There's no personality. It's soulless.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I think most people have that discerningness now to pick it out, something that's purely just give me 10 posts on glazing through ChatGPT and put them up on their construction company with the same tone of voice, the same words that they've seen before. It's easy to spot it once you've seen what it spits out. But I wanted to pick your brain on how do you think this affects our industry? We're both marketing agency owners. We're both heavily immersed in content creation. What implications, what do you think it's going to do to our space?
I think that the future's quite unpredictable in a sense. I mean, even the AI experts, like our kind of friend who we almost went into business with, they almost don't know what they've created, right? I'd say that the way it's changing it immediately now already, I look at it kind of through both ends of the spectrum. So, in marketing, there's a brand and consumer relationship, right? There always has been, there always will be. And I think that relationship is changing in a number of ways, kind of from both ends. There's, on the one hand, there's the way that brands create copy and content, right, which we've kind of been talking about, and the fact that marketers are using ChatGPT and other LLM-based tools to create content and copy. And when they're misusing it, it's creating this tidal wave of like samey average content, because ChatGPT kind of averages the internet. And I think the problem there, or whether it's a problem or not, if everyone's got the same tool at their disposal, right, and they're all using it in the same way, then how do you have a competitive edge? And I think differentiation will be even more important. Perhaps being more human, will be even more important.
It's a great segue, actually. Is there anything that other companies can do right now to start AI future-proofing themselves?
Probably taking a similar approach to what we did is a good idea. Try to understand the strengths and limitations in relation to what you do as a company. We did it not just for our services, but also the internal operations. So, account managers, project managers, we looked at what they do and we tried to, have a brainstorming session on like, what are the areas that you think could be sped up with AI? So have those discussions internally. I advise a scoring matrix. We like to score things at TCC because I think it just helps you to organize and prioritize. Otherwise, it's just lots of creative people talking and then nothing really happening, which happens a lot in agencies. I think companies should go through that process themselves, not just listen to AI experts, online, because no one's really an AI expert in a way, right? It's all new. This is all new territory. So really try to understand what works for you as a company. Every company's different. The inner workings and operations of a company are different. So go through that use case testing process, identify where the strengths and limitations are, try out different tools, because one conclusion, which I haven't mentioned, one thing that we found after doing all of this work is that it's personal, which is quite interesting. Like while we try to like break things down in terms of what we do as a company, these are the steps, this is what we take. The reality is each individual copywriter kind of tackles things in a different way. Even though they have to write a blog post, there's an intro, there's a middle, there's an end, there are headlines. The way I write a headline is different to another copywriter in the team. So what we found is like the way that our team members utilize ChatGPT and other LLM-based tools like word tune spices we like is another one. It's just different, right? And so I think that there should be a company-wide push to understand strengths and limitations and kind of find those use cases and potentially find the right tools and work out what's going to speed things up, make things more efficient, enhance your value proposition. But also as individuals, I think it's really important for your team members just to practice, like have ChatGPT open all the time and just mess around with it. As management, you can kind of try and force people to do things within pockets of time. But the reality is, I don't think copywriters will be replaced by AI anytime soon. But I think copywriters will be replaced by copywriters using AI, right? Those that are embracing it and using it. And I use this analogy, my dad was a graphic designer and I used to draw logos by hand and then scan them in and downsize it, right? And was a brilliant illustrator, like old school graphic designer. Then home computers came along, right? Macs and Adobe Photoshop. And he's just a bit of a technophobe, right? Like he was slow to the uptake and he just couldn't compete. He had to like pivot, change careers, like with designers that embrace the technology and we're good at it. So it's kind of the same. I feel like there's this revolution happening and we as individuals to just practice, just learn why and how it works for them.
I think that's really sound advice too, because if you are in a career position, you're not the business owner, but you're someone that picks up these skills. You have a value exchange that could be brought to that company that other people aren't. So by getting in there and discovering these tools for yourself, you start to evolve ahead of everyone else, which means you've got leverage as everything takes shape. So I did want to ask you, even though we kind of steered away from it a moment ago, do you have any predictions for the future with AI?
I think currently ChatGPT is based on a large language model, and it's kind of like an all-powerful tool that sort of does everything and knows everything. But the way that I see it in terms of, let's say, my industry is it's kind of like got GCSE level copywriting. So I don't know, GCSE are the exams we take when we're 15, 16, when you do like you study 11 different subjects. Right. So you kind of like learn a little bit about everything. Right. And it's kind of broad sweeping. And then you go and do A levels as 3. And then you go and if you continue with education, you'll study like one subject and get a degree and etc. So I think that currently ChatGPT is sort of GCSE level with like most things because it's learn everything. I think the future is specific models for specific industries. And one tool that within my industry that's an example of that, Writer, if you've come across Writer, they've got their own large language model and it's been trained on business writing, right? So it's an example of that kind of coming to life. It's specifically been trained on business writing. It's targeting, obviously, companies that want to write content and copy specifically. And so naturally, by being like laser focused and trained on a specific area, it's stronger, right? It can do a better job because the giants like Google, Microsoft, etc., will be more and more so build AI functionality into the workspaces we're already using. It will be an interesting world. I don't know if you saw did you see the actual humanoid robot that's been developed? I think it's called Future. I'm getting this wrong, but oh my gosh, it's insane. So if we think it's just like the white collar world that would be affected, they've got bots now. It's powered by OpenAI. It's in their AGI lab. So they're trying to get it to a point where it has that kind of intelligence where it can actually understand. Because currently AI can't understand, it's a predictive model. It's this bot that can do things and can pick up an apple and we will have this humanoid. It's basically Terminator 2. Terminator 2 is a very real threat in my opinion. So I don't know in terms of like future predictions, but I hope I've given you some at least for the next few years.
I think there's a lot for the audience to think about. We've gone in so much depth, sharing tools and different applications and functionalities. So I think you've been very generous with what you shared. As we start to wrap it up, did you want to touch on any things that you're doing with AI specifically, or any final thoughts that we haven't covered in the conversation so far?
I think that the exciting thing for us is the building of these bots. We have 6. We're going to be developing around 25 are in the pipeline. Again, they're GPTs, so they're based on GPT, but we're training them to do certain things. I love the fact that they've got their own personalities because you can give them their own tone of voice. One of them's like a bit sassy, and what's really cool is that you can pull them into the same conversation. So you mentioned before that they're almost like team members. That's how we're sort of treating them. So in our new agency deck, we've got a couple of slides with our human team members, and then we've got one with our AI assistants with their name, a quick like sort of tagline around what they do. The crazy thing is that, most of the work we do is within a chat thread, right? When we're not in the office, we do kind of go to the office 2-3 times a week. But even when we're in the office, like most of the conversations are happening in, for us, Fleep, which is basically like Slack. And we've now got that for bots and we can pull them in and they can have conversations with each other. And so I feel that like for us, the next step is that more integration between our human employees and our AI assistants that can come in and join in with the conversations, which is like such a crazy, interesting space to be in. This is credit to my other half, Nitsan, who it was her idea. She's like more of the kind of AI expert than me, I'd say, in the agency. She was the one that came up with like building the bots based on those, on the use cases that we identified. I think for us, things all kind of made more sense once we gave them a name and a personality and a job role, because it kind of humanized things a bit more. So rather than just having, we have these use cases, right, that exist and we can use technology to help us with that. Suddenly we have, we've personified these roles. And I love personification. That's what you do with branding, right? That's why we give a brand values and a personality and a voice. Like as humans, we can relate to other humans. So I think a smart thing we've done is almost humanize the functionality of AI and GPT in a way that it makes much more sense. We can understand how to use it because we're used to like working with team members and operating a team and getting the right team members together in the right conversations. And now we can do that with bots as well that have been trained on something. So it's like with, you hire a marketing manager who's been trained on marketing and a project manager that's been trained on being a project manager. And so now we've got that with our bots. And the next step is that integration of the two and really getting the team to be immersed in that and understand that how to use our bots in the best way. So that's the exciting thing for us. I think like as a value proposition, as an agency, it's exciting. And I think that what we are doing, we're also doing we've got free education around SGE and the future of content marketing. So we've created a presentation. We are offering to do free lunch and learns with some of our clients and some other prospects, and also just to send this ebook out for free. So I guess as a call to action off the back of this, which I can send to you, Aaron, is, a link to our PDF, which is very, 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 very close to being finished. So by the time this goes live, it should be. And that's just a free piece of kind of education around some of the things that we've talked about today.
Amazing. We'll make sure we add that link below in the show notes. If people also want to follow, I'm sure they'll listen to this far in the episode, they're curious and they've got a lot of value. How can they follow you? How can they find you so they can keep learning more about AI?
I'd say LinkedIn I've mentioned it a few times. LinkedIn is my favorite spot for ranting about things, about, copyright, content strategy, AI, and also my agency journey and some personal bits as well. Konrad Sanders, that's Konrad with a K, Sanders without a U. I've been saying that all my life because most people spell it differently. So yeah, just hit me up on LinkedIn, and I'm quite vocal on there.
Again, we'll chuck Konrad's LinkedIn profile link into the show notes below so you can get there directly. I believe that's also where we crossed paths and met. So bit of serendipity there. But thank you so much, mate. I really appreciate you being so generous and forthcoming with this conversation and sharing everything that you're doing and everything you foresee with AI. So from myself and all the listeners who have tuned in, thank you for jumping on the podcast.
Thanks for having me. It's been a lot of fun.